Good morning and welcome to D News. Months ago, the world watched the launch of JBL-2 and NX-5 spacecrafts to Mars. This expedition was based on the discovery of the Pandora virus, which was found accidentally underwater off the Australian coast. This extraterrestrial virus originated from Mars, and a group of 112 specialists, 56 men and 56 women, were sent off to investigate, along with 336 oxygen tanks. This is a very complex voyage we're dealing with here. Imagine if the outcomes are negative and the virus proves to be deadly. What impact could it have on the 112 citizens that are being exposed to it? In addition to this, the pressure and temperature changes are drastic. Pressure on Mars is incredibly low when compared to Earth's, meaning it wouldn't be possible for any human being to live without the use of any special high-tech suits that allow them to have more oxygen in Mars' atmosphere. Since it is made up of 95% carbon dioxide, the final requirement is to lower that amount to one that permits human life.
In the video displayed on the screen, the viewers are allowed to see the various changes in the spaceship. These changes are made so that the machine can increase its acceleration and velocity in order to arrive to Mars in the proper times. Both velocity, meaning VI plus A times T, and acceleration, meaning change in V over T, need a rise of the factors so that the liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen in the tanks of the stages of the spaceship work properly. These last propellants are stored in high pressures and low temperatures, because cold air is what causes low pressure. That's why we need a balance between them. There's two different spacecrafts. John, a specialist on the topic, will now introduce you to them.
There are two spacecrafts, one with half of the people and the other with the oxygen tanks. One explodes with solids and the other spacecraft explodes with gas, which allows this spacecraft to enter the atmosphere quicker. An artifact will come out of the spacecrafts and 4 solar panels will come out, which will give energy to the artifact and oxygen to the people. My partner Laura will explain further information.
Thanks, John. In the oxygen artifact, there are 4 solar panels. They are in charge of generating the sufficient amount of energy to constantly produce oxygen for the 112 people.
Thanks, Laura. Now on to Dr. Ramirez, who is already in Mars analyzing everything in regards to the Pandora virus.
Thanks, John. I am currently in the spaceship. Let me turn on my camera.
We will start by talking about the structure of a virus. Viruses have a capsid because they can't reproduce by their own. This capsid functions as a lipid membrane of the cell in which it was reproduced. Viruses are injected into the cell's DNA and will generally have a reverse transcriptase. These are enzymes that are in charge of taking the DNA of the cell. In the space left over, it inserts its own DNA so that the cell is the one that synthesizes the proteins of the virus and therefore form more viruses. Remember, viruses are aerosols, so they can only remain alive if they are inside the human body. In fact, viruses can last a maximum of 20 seconds alive if it can find a host to feed on. During the process of respiration, the virus introduces itself into our lungs in the alveolar sac and alveoli. The virus then enters the circulation of the capillaries, which will lead to the pulmonary vein until reaching the heart. There it will be distributed systematically.
Here we are with Professor Snape. Welcome, Professor Snape.
Thank you. What a nice trip to Mars. I'm here to explain the function called PDVTX.
What does that mean?
Well, P being the 112 initial people, 56 men and 56 women. D being the dead people. Of course, the initial will be 0. V being the Pandora virus. The initial and final will be 1. T being the total people, and X being the time in years. I invite you to check out the graphs that I presented.
Oh, I can barely see. Let me put on my glasses. Oh, now I can see well.
Okay, first of all, the population growth. Let's start with the birth rate, where the function is px equals 13 plus 122, meaning the growth in 1 year will be equal to 125, an increase of 13 individuals in a year. Secondly, the mortality rate has the function of mx equals 13x plus 4, meaning there will be 4 natural deaths and 11 produced by the virus.
Professor, it's really interesting.
Thank you, I know. Finally, in order to get the total, we need to subtract the mortality rate from the birthed one, meaning that we will only have 108 people in the first year, a decrease from the initial population.
All night, trying to get that rich. I've been working on my shit. Milk the whole game twice, gotta get it how I live. I've been working on my shit. Now get this work.